Hello, how you doing? It's Phil Thatch, and today I want to talk about a new accessory that I have for my Sony a6700 camera. I love this little camera, and I've gotten to where I really enjoy using it for landscape photography as much as wildlife photography, and I bought it for wildlife photography. The new accessory I have is the SmallRig Cage, designed especially for the Sony a6700. This is the box that it came in, and here it is. And I've never used a cage before. And a cage is a device that fits all the way around your camera. I usually use an L bracket, which goes across the bottom and up one side, but a cage goes all the way around. And it's a really interesting device. It connects through the 1/4-20 screw on the bottom of the camera. Almost all cameras have one 1/4-20 sized screw mount on the bottom. And this connects via that. And then it has 1/4-20s all over the place, so you can connect all sorts of accessories to this thing. It has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the right hand side, 2 up here, 4 more here, 4 more down the side. So you can connect all sorts of accessories. There's handles that you can connect that stick out to the side, so you have a better ability to film with it. You can connect a handle to the top where you hold the camera down below. But that's not really what I'm going to use this for. Mostly this will be for protection, because I have a tendency to drop cameras, and because this cage goes all the way around the camera, I mean, it won't protect it 100% of the time, and for all drops that it may encounter in my care, it'll still protect it some. But even more so, I'm going to use it as an L bracket, and I'll show you how I'm going to do that in a little while. But first, let's see how to install this thing on the camera. Let's see, we get the camera, and it just slides on and fits up nicely. Let me get my glasses on so I can see what I'm doing. On the bottom, it has this tool that is magnetized, and it stays on there all the time. And on one part of the tool is a flathead screwdriver, so you can screw the device into the 1/4-20 on the bottom of the camera. And like most L brackets, that's the only way they connect, is just through the 1/4-20 on the bottom. But this has an ingenious way to connect even more, have another mounting point. To access the second mounting point, the first thing you have to do is take these noisy little things off of your camera that normally hold your strap on. Take that off, and you'll see right up here at the very top there is a small screw, and the same tool, I think it's an Allen screw, the same tool that has the flathead also has the Allen screw. And you just take that screw out, and that screw is not attached to anything, it's just a place to keep the screw. And then once you have it removed, then you run it through the eye that held on the strap connectors and into a threaded area on the cage. Just like that. And tighten it down, and then this thing is really on there. It's not going anywhere. There's no wiggle at all, because most L brackets, like I said, just attach via the 1/4-20 on the bottom, but this cage attaches there and here as well, and it is not going anywhere. And then once you're done with that, you can put your magnetic tool right back here on the bottom where it will stay. So once you have it put together, then you can think about, what does it feel like? And I was worried that I wouldn't like the way it feels, because I'm used to just having the grip on this side of the camera, no metal. But if you take a look at the construction of this thing, it's really ergonomically designed. So if you're in a situation where you don't need to have anything attached to that side of your camera, it feels great in your hand. And if you're one of those people that doesn't like a small camera because there's no place to put your pinky, this sticks down just a little bit further, and it gives your place, I've got pretty big hands, and it gives your pinky a place to go. So that's a really nice feature. And you may say, well, if I've taken off my strap connectors, how am I going to connect a strap? Well, it has strap connectors built in. There's one right there, another one right here, and if you like to connect a strap to the bottom of your camera, there's even a place where you can hook up a strap right here. What about access to the battery? Well, you can see there's a hole on the bottom that goes right through to the battery access compartment, but if you open the battery access door, it only opens about this far. So what in the world is going on with that? Well, SmallRig has thought of a solution for that as well. This part of the rig, it has a hinge on it, and you just move it over. I don't know if you can see that. You move it over out of the way, and then the battery door opens up and you can access the battery. Then once you close the battery door, you just move that back over, and now you're back to being able to operate the camera. So let's talk some more about the connections. I've already talked about all of these 1/4-20 screw mounts to where you can mount all sorts of camera oriented things. 4 or 5 here, 2 here, 3 or 4 up here, several over here on this side, and you know, a camera normally has 1. Now on the bottom of this camera there's 5 or 6, and these 1/4-20s are placed in exactly the correct pattern to connect a DJI Ronin gimbal accessory if you wanted to use a gimbal with this camera, which would be really awesome because this camera's light and I'm sure it would work great on a gimbal. But also on this side, in addition to there being these 1/4-20s, this is also a NATO rail, which is a standardized rail, and you can connect things that comply with the NATO rail standard. And then on the bottom, it also has an Arca Swiss plate, so you can put it on a regular tripod head, an Arca Swiss style tripod head. So just lots and lots of things that you can connect to it. I didn't mention the cold shoe. There's a cold shoe right here where you can connect lots of accessories like a light or a microphone can go in that cold shoe, and then you still have your flash hot shoe available for something else. Just lots and lots of things you can connect. But all of that doesn't even add up to how awesome this thing feels in your hand. I mentioned it before, but it just has a wonderful feel. The camera feels better with this cage on than it does without it. And that's what I really wasn't expecting at all. I was expecting it to be convenient and have all these connections. I wasn't expecting it to feel better. As a matter of fact, I thought it would actually feel worse in my hand, but that's exactly the opposite of how it's turning out. I like to use this Peak Design wrist strap with my cameras. So I've put one of these Peak Design anchors on it. So that works great. And I mentioned that I would like to use this as an L bracket. Well, I figured out how to do that too with these fabulous 1/4-20s on the side. I have just a generic and extremely small Arca Swiss plate. And I'm just going to put it on here on this side and screw it down. This thing's tiny, but it fits wonderfully on these 1/4-20s. I just put it in the middle one, tighten it up pretty good, and bingo. Now I can mount the camera on my tripod like this, or on the tripod like this if I want to do vertical shots or make a panorama. And because it's over here on this side, and that thing is so small, it's still super comfortable in my hand. I don't know if I'm going to keep that on the camera all the time, but I might. But I'm definitely going to keep this super comfortable cage on the camera at all times. I don't see me ever needing to take it off. The a6700 has the micro HDMI connector. It doesn't have the mini HDMI connector, and it definitely doesn't have a full-size HDMI connector. It has the micro HDMI connector, and it's easy to pull that cord and damage your camera or the cable. And that's where this little device that comes with the cage comes into play. It has 2 accessories to tighten things up and loosen things up. And the first of them is what you connect it to the cage with. It just screws right on here to the cage. And then the next connector, once you put your HDMI connector into the camera, then you can adjust the grip on that and tighten it down with this top one here. And then your HDMI cable won't be, if you yank on it, it won't tear up the connection and ruin your camera. So all in all, I gotta say I'm pretty thrilled with this SmallRig Cage for the Alpha 6700 Sony camera. It just feels fantastic, and it gives the camera a much more solid, robust feel, and you don't have to worry about banging your camera on stuff too much. Like if you need to set your camera down on some concrete or something, this will protect the camera. And if you scratch up this cage, it's inexpensive to replace it. And I wouldn't even mind it having some scratches on it, but I don't want scratches all over my camera. Another interesting thing about the way the metal part of this cage is routed above the camera, it actually makes it easier to find what you're looking for. Like I often have trouble finding the record button on top of this camera, but with this piece of metal right there, you can just run your finger down the metal and you find it really easy. Same thing for the C2 button. It doesn't block any of the buttons or dials on the camera at all. Everything is still accessible with this cage on, including the battery and all of the connections on this side, the headphone jack, the microphone jack, the memory card, HDMI port, USB port. All of that is accessible even with the cage on. That's why I'm probably never going to take it off. These things are reasonably priced, and if you decide you want to get one, I have a link in the description of the video, so check that out if you're interested. And I do appreciate you joining me today for this quick unboxing and early review of the SmallRig Cage for the Sony a6700. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give me a thumbs up, subscribe, hit the bell, and as always, I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Bye-bye.